What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. Another video means another dopamine high, except that buy something that feels something. And today we are back at it with another review. And actually we're going back to the world of Hasbro instead of doing a NECA product for once. And what we are reviewing today is Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Clone Commander Jesse from their Clone Wars line. This figure is a Walmart exclusive, so at any point during or after the video you do want to pick up this figure for yourself, you will unfortunately have to pay the whopping price of $59.99 because scalpers for the Star Wars franchise are absolutely terrible. And you know, after the initial release of the figure launches, scalpers will boost that price and charge whatever they want, because the initial price for this figure was $27.97. that is the base price, but third-party sellers are assholes and want to take all the money you own. And yeah, so I will put a link in the description of the video if you do want to suck it up and pay that $60 for your Jesse figure. But fortunately, I did also put in the description a link to eBay if you do want to see if you can get lucky and find something cheaper. But good luck and God bless your wallets. Simply because I can and because I'm a huge nerd, I'm going to give you all some background information and brief lore on Jesse for those who don't know. He was initially a lieutenant in the Grand Army of the Republic that served in the 501st Legion, closely to Rex, being one of his most trusted lieutenants. And Jesse was so patriotic and devoted to the Grand Army of the Republic, he actually has the Republic insignia tattooed on his face and painted onto his helmet. And like I said, he would serve close to Captain Rex throughout the majority of the Clone Wars, and up towards the end he would actually be promoted to an ARC trooper, most likely the fill-in for Echo and Fives. And unfortunately, like most clones towards the end of the Clone Wars, Jesse would succumb to Order 66 and shortly after pass away in a very fiery death in a Venator trying to apprehend Captain Rex and Ahsoka Tano. And now with all that out of the way, we can actually move on to the review now. So looking at the packaging, of course we have the environmental friendly packaging. Here we have a nice picture of Jesse, a nice little portrait of Jesse on the side, and then going over we have a nice photo of the figure with everything that is included. So you know, the standard. Going to the back, we have a nice larger photo of the figure, a brief description of what Jesse is all about, and then flipping over back, we are going to open up the packaging to take a look at how they package this, because I don't really show you that as much, especially because this is the new type of packaging. So you just take the tray out and you can see that they completely suffocated the figure. Here are the blasters included, and then Jesse in his wrapping, in his mummification, if you will. So you just, you know, rip the tabs, rip off the paper, and it just feels like Christmas, because you know, you're unwrapping your very own gift that you bought for yourself. And here we have the figure looking all good off of first impressions. So let's take a deeper dive into the figure. Starting off with the head region with the helmet off, you can have him rotate his head 360 degrees, which is always great to see. You can have him look up and down a decent amount, which is yet again another awesome thing to see on the figure. And then you can even have him, you know, bob his head back and forth if you want him to do that for whatever reason. And then you can have him tilt his head side to side. So overall, very solid head articulation with the helmet off. Then looking at the head articulation with the helmet on, you can get his head to rotate 360 degrees still, so good to see that there. And then when it comes to looking up and down, there is that range of motion still. You can still look down pretty well, but not as much looking up. And then unfortunately, he can't really tilt his head side to side. It is barely noticeable. Like, granted, the range of motion is there, but it's just not as apparent with the helmet on, unfortunately. So overall, I am happy with the head articulation with the helmet off. I think it's solid, no complaints. But with the helmet, it does kind of hinder how he can look around. The silver lining is he can still express himself and you can have him look around, just not as much with the helmet off. And then looking at the arm articulation, you can rotate the arms 360 degrees, which is always really nice to see on these figures. And then when it comes to the shoulders, you can actually bring them back and forth a little bit more than the average Black Series figure. I don't know when they started implementing this, but I really like that. And then you can have him bring up his arm a decent amount, which means you can have him open up his arms a decent amount as well. And then moving down to the elbow, you can get a decent elbow bend. I will say it's fairly limited because of the piece of armor wrapped around his elbow does get in the way of that joint, but at the end of the day, it's still a range of motion that can be used. It's just by no shoulder taps are going to be achieved with this figure unless you cut that piece off, which I don't know why you would, but it's a solid B minus, solid B in the terms of elbow bends. And then moving down from that, you can rotate the elbow and the forearm 360 degrees, and then from that you can take the hand, rotate that 360 degrees, and bend the wrist however you please. And then when it comes to the torso, you can rotate it 360 degrees from the chest up, and then you can have him lean back and forth. By no means is it a crunch, but that range of motion is still there nonetheless. And then you can have him tilt side to side a wee bit, and with all that you can get a nice spherical range of motion to have him kind of look around as you please. So not bad torso articulation at all, and I will say it's better than some of the earlier trooper articulation that we have seen in the Black series. Then looking at the legs, we can get a nice 360 degree spin of the legs when adjusting the comma, because it is now plastic. I do kind of miss the cloth ones, but it is what it is. As long as we can get that 360 spin, I'm happy. And then of course you can bring up his legs a good amount, so if you want him to sit in a chair or on the ledge of a cliff, that is possible. Granted, with the plastic comma, I don't know how easy that is to achieve. It would have been a lot easier to achieve with the cloth ones. And then of course with the splits, he can't achieve 100% of a split, part of that just being because of the upper portion of the thigh armor and then the plastic comma, but it is what it is. Doesn't really necessarily ruin the figure. You can still get some pretty good poses out of him. And then of course with the knee, you can get a decent knee bend. You're not going to get a butt kick out of him, about 85% to a butt kick, but it doesn't have to be 100% to be good. Very happy with that knee bend. And then we can rotate the calf 360 degrees, and then moving down to the foot, we can rotate the foot 360 degrees and bend the ankle however you please, so you can balance and stance him however you want, which is really nice to see. And overall, I am happy with the leg articulation on this figure. Kind of bummed out that the plastic comma does semi-limit how you can move his leg. Granted, you can just fold the comma up and do your adjusting there. And overall, very happy with the articulation throughout this entire figure. No complaints. This is about standard, if not a little bit better than what we are seeing with the Black series. So starting off with the obvious one, and that's the helmet comes off. See, I already kind of covered this already, so just pop it on and off. And then of course we have the rangefinder, which shouldn't be there, but it is nonetheless, and you can just flip it up and down, so pretty neat. And of course for the weapon included, we do have two DC-17 blasters for our boy to dual wield. We've seen these 1,000 times, so there's not really anything in depth to go over to. I have no complaints at all with the visuals, just they're included. And of course, if you don't want him holding them, you can put them in the holsters on the side. Obviously there are two included, and you just simply slide them in and then pull them out with ease. Figured I would include that to add some meat to the video, even though we've seen this also 1,000 times. Now I don't have any issues with the DC-17s themselves. I like how they look and all that, but I do have an issue with how the figure interacts with them, seeing that the right hand has a trigger finger and the DC-17 fits in nice and snug, but the left hand does not have a trigger finger, and the figure awkwardly holds the DC-17. So basically I just went ahead, I took some snippers and snipped in between the index and middle finger of Jesse's hand and made it so that the DC-17 can fit nice and snug into his left hand. I do know with Appo we're getting two trigger finger hands for both arms, so I'm very happy with that. I just wish they gave it with our dual wielding figures, because it would make a lot more sense. And here we are at 1 minute rants, aka the visual presentation segment in the video, because I can't keep my mouth shut, and when I start talking about how much I like a figure's visuals, I go on forever and ever and lose track of time and make the video 10 times longer than it needs to be. So I'm going to basically go over what I like about the visuals or dislike about the visuals of this figure in about a minute or less. So let's get into it. So when it comes to this figure, there is a lot to like visually. I think they did a great job with the overall paint job of the figure. All his markings are accurate. I looked at on-screen references to the figure, and everything is there that's supposed to be there. Equipment and all. The sculpt looks great. Hasbro did such a great job at nailing all of the clone equipment, so I have no issues whatsoever with the paint and sculpt. But there is one issue I do have with this figure, and I think all of us have that same issue with this figure, and it's the fact the helmet is the wrong helmet. They used the generic ARC Trooper helmet with the rangefinder and the fin, and Jesse does not have that. He doesn't have the fin or the rangefinder. He just has a normal phase 2 helmet, the one that he's been wearing even before he was an ARC Trooper. But after that, like I said, I think Hasbro did such a great job with the paint and getting all the right markings down and everything. It's just that fin that is killing me, alongside with the rangefinder, of course. It's such an easy thing they could have avoided, but they still went ahead and did it. And then they put this bad boy into scale with some size comparisons, starting off with NECA's Aliens Xenomorph Warrior. Then we have NECA's Elder Predator, aka Greyback. Jazzware's Halo the Spartan Collection Rogue Spartan. Jazzware's The World of Halo, Halo 3 ODST Rookie. Hasbro Star Wars The Black Series Gaming Greats Republic Commando Battle Droid. And finally, we have McFarlane's The Doomslayer. And here we are in the turntable segment of the video. This is pretty much where I go over what I like, dislike, pros, cons, strengths, weaknesses, give my overall general thoughts and opinions, stuff like that, and give y'all something to bounce off of and go down in the comment section below and get a conversation started. I'll most likely reply to y'all's comments because obviously I like talking about this stuff, and I just want to get the sour stuff out of the way first so we don't have to dread on the negative. And honestly, there's only one thing that bothers me about this figure. I guess you could say two, but it's more of a preference thing, just to get that lesser evil out of the way. The whole preference thing is referring to the comma. I do like how the plastic commas are, you know, it doesn't really fold and it's nice and sleek and clean looking, but obviously it does limit some leg articulation, not enough to ruin the figures, but I can see where it would upset someone. Me personally, I can take it or leave it. At the end of the day, it is all down to preference. And then the one thing that actually does kind of bother me with this figure, and that is the helmet, because that is not Jesse's helmet. This is the generic ARC Trooper helmet that we've seen throughout the Clone Wars. Jesse, when he's an ARC Trooper, does keep his generic phase 2 helmet, and I don't know why Hasbro decided to just keep this. I feel like it would have been less effort to just use a normal phase 2 helmet rather than giving us the one with the accessories and having his paint job work around the accessories on the helmet. But I don't know, just kind of bummed out that they went with this route rather than, you know, keeping it lore accurate and as, you know, media accurate as possible. So when it comes to the positives of this figure, there's not really too much to glorify, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. The ARC Trooper mold is great, so this is a great figure when it comes to the feel and visuals. Granted, the helmet is inaccurate, but after that, this figure looks great with everything else. And like I said, he feels great. He comes with the pistols that you see him with in the show, so there's not technically anything lacking in the accessory department. I do wish he came with another blaster or two, but that's more of a preference thing at the end of the day. But yeah, I feel like this is just a well-rounded figure that does its job and does it well. It just hits all the standards for a Black Series figure. So there isn't really anything to glorify. There's no wheel being reinvented here. It's just a good Black Series figure. And now going over the entirety of this figure, some things that I kind of would consider to be desired, things I would change or tweak or adjust. Starting off with the helmet, I would obviously make the helmet more accurate, and by that I mean remove the ARC Trooper accessories on his helmet. And then the only other thing that really comes to mind are the blasters. Don't get me wrong, the DC-17s are great, and I'm happy they included them, but I just kind of wish he came with the DC-15A or the DC-15S as well, seeing that Apo is coming with those blasters. I feel like it'd be just nice to have him come with those to just add a little bit more value to the figure, seeing that Hasbro is increasing the prices of their figures, and also it just doesn't hurt to have more weapons to army build with. And here we are. That is it. That is pretty much everything I have to say about this figure. We've looked at everything this figure has to offer. I've shared my thoughts and opinions. I've given you even a little bit lore in the beginning of the video about who Jesse is. I think I've said everything I can say about this figure. And if you do have this figure yourselves, please tell me down below, do you like or dislike this figure, and what do you like or dislike about this figure? And yeah, let's move on to the outro. So if you did like this video, a like, a subscription would be very much appreciated. You don't have to comment, I get it, that's a lot of effort, but if you want to bounce off anything I did say during the video, you're more than welcome to. I'll most likely reply to your comments because obviously I like talking about this stuff. And don't worry, because we both know the bell is broken, so it is what it is. And if you want to see more content like this, there's plenty of it up on the channel. Obviously I cover Star Wars stuff, but I also cover NECA and Halo stuff as well. So if any of that does interest you, go check it out. You're more than welcome to. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and please stay hydrated because it is very important, my friends. See ya.